All right, as I said last week, before I can make that final panel into there, the final closeout panel to the rear bumper, I got a little work to do to the rear bumper itself. And I'm not happy with this bottom. As you can see, it's got a little arc up based on this straight edge. It's basically touching here, and there's about 1/4 of an inch arc up. So I got to correct for that. Also, these don't really comply nicely to the exhaust tips. So I got to cut the center section out here and try to move it back out to match those up a little bit better now that they're in their permanent locations. So I got a little twizzling to do with this before I could get back to working underneath the car. All right, I had to back up a little bit here. I had to remake this panel out of steel. This is the aluminum one that I made up before. I didn't like the way these corners were coming out, and you're limited to what you can do unless you're going to weld the aluminum. But I just didn't like that abrupt, squared off looking corner. And so anyway, it just didn't look natural. Too many pop rivets, no way to seal it up. So what I've done is remade it in 032 steel. And you can see now I've got these rounded over corners over here, which I basically, what I did to get those is, you can see this side's not done yet. It's basically this piece of metal rolled over here, this one rolled over in this direction, a filler piece on the side over there, and then what I've taken is, I've got this just a steel ring with a 2-inch hole in it, 3/16 inch steel. I had for something else. Anyway, just take it, and then I've got a piece of 032 steel, and basically put it in there like that, and take the old ball peen hammer and just keep working it and working it and working it until I end up with a little bit of a dome. This is a sandbag right here, leather sandbag, so it gives way when I hit this thing. The bottom, will cave. Bottom line is what I ended up doing is once I got the dome, I could cut a section of the dome out, and that gives me my little corner piece over here, and just from that point there, I was able to work that in and create this smoother corner. It just looks a little more natural. That's what it looks, what the actual trunk pan looks like on the corners, and so yeah, I like that a lot better. But anyway, I mean, it sounds like it's a stupid thing to worry about. It's underneath the car, but you can see it from the back, so it's not to be ignored. And once you see it, it can't be unseen, as they say. So you might as well tackle it right now. All right, I thought I'd show you this new piece under the car. As you can see, it's rounded over, kind of mimicking what's going on already on this corner here. So it blends out a whole lot nicer with these corners. And then I have this aluminum Z flange this way, and then that way. It's riveted to this part, or this pan, because there's going to be a panel from here over. I just left it unpainted. There's no reason to paint that. So it's then it's screwed right up into, with some Tech screws, into this bar that goes across. It supports the, connects to the bumper outriggers, and then supports the wing. So this bar is doing a whole lot of duty as far as keeping things straight and square. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a look as long as you can see it better now with the bumper off of the car. And anyway, got a little work to do on the bumper yet. Got to straighten out quite a few things that I did before that didn't come out quite as nice as I thought they were. Anyway, moving on. Okay, it's time to start dealing with some of these issues that I have on this back bumper. And one of the issues I had was this right side of the bumper panel that I had in there. I must have got too much heat in it, so it's got a pretty good gallywampus in it right here and here. As you can see, I just sanded across to see how bad it was. It's about 1/16 of an inch. Nothing that couldn't have been handled with Bondo, but it irked me because of the fact that I got this one so nice and flat, and there's nothing going on with this one, but that one, it was a roller coaster. I got a little bit too much heat in the panel, so I went ahead and replaced that panel before I even got started with some of the other things I have to do. One of them is basically trying to reshape this so that it fits a little bit better to the shape of the exhaust tips. The exhaust tips are a lot flatter than this. Has got a bit of a crown to it here, and they're not symmetrical. This one here is a little flatter already than this one over here. Something I couldn't see with the exhaust tips temporarily put up in there. Now that they're up in there permanently, I can put this back on there and model this a little bit closer. Another issue I have to address is the placement of the backup sensors down here in the bottom of the roll pan here. But that has to be done. I got to get the car. I've got it up on jack stands right now, and I've got to get it down on the ground so that it's sitting somewhat at the rake angle that it will be sitting at when it's driving, so that I can get those sensor mount points in level so that the sensors are not pointing towards the ground. If I just pop them in there flush with this surface right now, the backup sensors, proximity sensors, would be pointing to the ground, and they would pick up the ground every time you put the car in reverse. The sensors would go off irregardless if there was, irregardless, that's not a word, regardless of whether or not there was anything behind you or not. So anyway, just a few things I'm going to have to do to tune this bumper up. Also, I just wanted to show you this this bottom flange I added. It's a Z flange, and what that replaces was those two aluminum flanges that I had bolted on before to pick up that lower panel that I'm going to put in between that closure on the trunk pan and the back bumper. At any rate, what you can see, it starts out flush there, and then it opens up a little bit, and then it flushes up again over there. That's basically correcting for that frown that I had going in here. Now it's got a slight smile to it going in this way, which is what I was looking for, a nice smooth transition. Just thought I'd show you that. All right, with a little bit of filling in with weld and working my way around, adjusting the tips themselves, which, you know, there's a bolt on the bottom that you can rotate them a little bit and kind of line everything up. I've got them pretty well tuned in at this point to where I like them. The only thing left to do now on this bumper itself is to get the backup sensors, the parking sensors, plotted and put into place. But I'm going to get to making that one last panel under here, that closure panel out of the ABS plastic, and at least that part of it will be done before I pull this bumper back off again. And then I'll make sure that wherever I locate my my park sensors, that they're properly leveled out so that they point directly back. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. All right, so I made that final closeout panel that goes from the boxing that I put up underneath there to this is the rear bumper flange over here. So what I've got here is I've got a piece of aluminum to stiffen up this from side to side, and then a couple of aluminum returns on the end over here, and then a little bit of the sound deadener. And this is just ABS plastic, 1/16 of an inch thick. So it's just going to, when I'm done, screw into the flange from the bottom side up on the front and the rear, and that'll be the final closure. Now I'm going to leave it out for now because I have to do some work on getting the parking assist sensors placed in the bumper. And I was out doing some errands the other day, and I ran over to the Dodge dealership to see how high off the ground they're set in stock location, and it's about 19 inches off the ground, which puts us right into the body of the bumper. So the park sensors will have to fit in right up about here in order for them to perform the same task that they did when this car was in a stock configuration. So I just have to figure out how I'm going to go ahead and mount them, because as I said before, they have to be mounted in a vertical plane perpendicular to the ground, because you don't want to have them pointed downwards. If you put them just into this bumper, because of the angle that it's mounted at, or it just slopes away in this direction, so you have to reconcile that and get those to basically be level. So that's pretty much got to make some sort of an adaptation that gets them angled this way and puts them level to the ground so that the cone sensitivity is properly aligned. Anyway, that's what I'm up to next. All right, this is my first attempt at this. This is challenging to say the least, okay? So what I did was I put this angle finder, it's carpenter's angle that you can tighten down, up against the bumper, and then I pulled this angle out away from the bumper until this is perpendicular or level here, straight up and down, and this is the angle of the back of the bumper, how it relates to the ground. So with that in mind, now I have both a square face that I have to address and our sensors, the sensor with the housing, because the sensor is much smaller than the housing, but it can't really be eliminated because there's these little clips on the end over here that this thing clips in and out of. So, you know, anything I would invent to hold this would be much bulkier than this plastic piece. So I have to figure out a way to get this plastic piece to be straight on with this plane, this vertical plane. So that means that necessarily there's going to be a need for a housing that's going to go back in this direction to reconnect with the bumper itself. Now, a friend of mine, Matt Dumas, who's up in Massachusetts, runs a muffler shop up there, had one of these Hellcat body swaps done, and the way he solved his issue with mounting this is he has a stock Charger roll pan at the bottom that he put these sensors in, and basically he got some Jeep, I think Wrangler 2019. They have these plastic housings that look like what I've got right here. Basically, they've got a slight awning at the top, and they've got a little deflection at the bottom. It's like a large washer, and he used those. I decided to see if I couldn't mimic that with sheet metal, since I could weld this right to the bumper, and then it could be body worked in. Anyway, what this does is this larger circle represents the outer portion of the housing, which, even though it doesn't look round, its outer diameter matches this right here, so it's accommodated on the back side. And the center hole, of course, is for the sensor to protrude on its own, so that's going to be coming through right there. Now, the other issue is the way you see I've got this twisted here. So it's twisted out at the top to create a small awning, and then this little piece here, so it splits the difference. In other words, if I was just to try and mount this up this way, and then I could put all the transition here and have it flush up here, and then it would be all at the bottom. So you could bring the bring this all the way up, but then this becomes really large on the back of the bumper as far as how it appears. So with this, I've split half in and half out so that this inner surface here is reconciled. In other words, this kicks back here like this, and then this kicks out this way, and when it does, that surface that holds the sensor is straight up and down. And the way I accomplished this basically was just simply, I've got a 2-inch circle of steel, and then I put, this is 1.25 inch washer with a bolt through it, and I put that through the center hole, put a nut and a washer on the back side. Initially, my hole size was identical to this in order for it to not shuffle around on me. I widened it out to the size of the sensor after I finished working this metal. So this other washer went down on the back side here, and like this, and then another nut on there, and I tied them tight together so I was able to grab the top of the bolt head and then the nut intermittently in order to grab them in the vise over here and hammer them over till I've got this shape here to where you see I've got a twist in it, and the bolt is straight on, but the center line there you can see crosses the axis and creates hopefully a perpendicular surface for this to go to, and hopefully this doesn't look too ridiculous in the back, but it's kind of minimal. It's the minimum of what needs to be done in order to fit these sensors in there and have them not read either the side of the bumper, because you can't have too big of an overhang, which if you have this thing completely set into the bumper, which would just be, you know, a half cone, then the detection cone could read upward over here because of the fan and how much it fans out. It's possible that it probably wouldn't be a problem, but I'm trying to minimize the idea that there would be a problem in the first place by doing this. We'll see how this all works out. Like I said, this is my first shot at it. We'll see what it looks like. All right, just to make sure that I have the orientation right, I've got this circle stencil over here. It has 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock on it, so that I can get the exact center of this piece. So this is my axis, and this is my rotation inwards, and this is my rotation outwards, so I know where to start with as far as locating on the back bumper. I already marked out the centers of where my sensors need to go, and so I've run a line across both here and then vertically in a vertical location. So now what I've done is I've taken this my universal body stand here, which still has the attachments for when I was using it to put the quarter panels on and off, and I've got this bar magnet that has a little tab on it, and I just bolted it to here so that I could adjust it. And what I have here now is a stand that I could basically move into position, and I can level this up to maintain this pad right here, the surface that has to correspond to the actual sensor, to make sure that that stays vertical. It's going to be mounted on the back side of this magnet and held like that, so that if my metalworking is a little bit out of whack, I can tack it around in the exact vertical face position that I need it to. Or if I see when I cut this larger hole, this 2-inch hole over here, if the metalworking needs a little adjustment, I can go over and I can work it on the bench before I actually slide it into position. But this is basically holding it 90 degrees in this direction over here, so that when I tack it, it maintains that face as being 90 degrees to the ground. Anyway, that's what I'm up to. Well, I'm in the process of tacking it in here, but the one thing I forgot completely is that that magnet's a bad idea. Only from the sense that something that small, very difficult to weld it in, because it'll mess up your tacks, because the magnetized steel it just makes a mess of your tack welding. So I'm going to change that. Before I do the others, I'll change that over to something that's mechanical, that just through bolts through the center hole and holds it and does the same job. Okay, so there's the piece welded in and kind of ground off and buffed out a little bit, so you can see it a little easier. It's not very apparent as I thought it would be, which is a good thing. But I hold this straight edge up here, you can see the effect. You see it's got a little bit of a hood at the top, and it's kicked out at the bottom, which makes this perpendicular to the ground. As a final little tweak, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a large bolt through the hole, nut and bolt it with a washer on the back side. You know, with the bumper mounted, if I can get up there and put it on with the bumper mounted, I will. If I can't, I'll just do it with the bumper off, put the bumper back on, and give it a little tweak. So you'll be able to, if you have a long enough piece of threaded rod, you'll be able to tweak it up and get it perfectly level if you need a little adjustment right there. Anyway, that's the approach I'm going to take. Hopefully it all works out. I got another 3 to do, and so I'll have to move it on. All right, so change my direction again as far as how I'm going to approach the next 3 that I've cut out over here. I've basically shaped the these metal pieces, the last three, based on what this one already looks like. So basically it's in the general shape that this one is. So while that device will work pretty good for checking each one, I said it's not any good for actually holding it to weld it, because it ruins your tack welds when you're trying to tack it, because it's magnetized and it's such a small piece. Anyway, beyond that, I'm just going to tack these pieces in, rotated the proper way, and then weld them up. And then I'll use that method I talked about, putting the bolt through here, put the bumper back on, adjust it up to the exact angle to get it dead level, and then I'll take the bumper back off and start working on the interior parts that hold the actual sensors. Anyway, that's the approach I'm taking, rather than redesign that thing. There's really no reason to. It was good to hold it to see if it was conforming to the shape as far as the edges touching and the top and the bottom, but it's not necessary for holding it to tack it in. All right, my previous method of setting these pieces proved highly aggravating, so I've come up with another method here. Once I actually have this first one set, I know this one's perpendicular to the floor. So now I've basically set it up on this with this body stand with a level, basically making sure that this plane is the same here. And then what I'll do is I'll go over to this next one and I'll kind of twist it, or whatever has to be done to make sure that this zeroes out like this one here. Anyway, it's a little easier on the bench. I can reach in here and I can tweak this up and everything like that, but it all depends on getting the first one established, the relationship of the piece to the ground. Also, I have it sitting on, there's a back brace that bolts to the car, is sitting on these blocks, which I've taken the time to level up, both in both this direction and across both sets of blocks in this way. So this is sitting pretty much in a level plane based on that support structure that it normally bolts to the back of the car. So that's as close as I can get it. It's not super scientific, but it gets me within a half a degree of where I need to be. All right, I like to take forever to get these done. But they're in now, and I've got them adjusted up so that they're all in the same plane. And basically what I ended up doing is after they went in, I had to take basically ran this bolt with a bunch of washers up through it, put another washer on top and a nut, and then tightened it up, and then just give it a couple of gentle wraps with a hammer to get it to roll up or down, depending on which way it needed to go, to basically end up pointing at a level direction. So the next thing I've got to do is I've got to take my sensor housings and figure out a way to mount these plastic housings on the back side. At any rate, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge too, to make sure that they're in there sturdy enough that they don't break out. Can't glue them. Probably pop rivet them to something, and then I'll have to get that in there. Hell, I really haven't thought about it yet. I've just been obsessed with this today. At any rate, this is all I'm going to do this week, because I'm out of time. And I appreciate everybody that's watched and keeps on watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.